And here we go. We are waiting for the confirmation message saying we're live. And it appears that we are live. Let's double check this. Yes. Okay, we're live. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Let me turn on the chat so I can see it. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. My name is Carlos Quintero, and I own a small media production company based out of Fargo, North Dakota. And today we are going to talk about processing the raw files or the raw light files from the Canon C200, but using a better workflow. And in my opinion, the better workflow is using Resolve. And we're going to use the free version of Resolve. So again, thank you for joining me. So with that, let's get started. And by the way, if you guys see me doing this, I'm using a switcher. I'm using the Apollo switcher. So that's how I get to show you sort of different screens. And the very first step, of course, is we have to start by downloading Resolve. And to download Resolve, it's free. It's available from the blackmagicdesign.com website. And once you get on the website, as we are here, you simply go to the support. And in the support center, you can then select DaVinci Resolve. You scroll down, scroll too much. Scroll down and then you see here, you have the ability to download DaVinci Resolve 14 Studio Public Beta 8. That is the latest version that they're running now. Or you have the ability to download the non-studio version. The non-studio version, for anyone who doesn't know, is the version that is 100% free. They do require that you give them your name and some contact information. In other words, to register to download it, but it is absolutely worth it. And I've never received one piece of spam from Blackmagic. So I'm guessing they're just collecting a database of who their users actually are, which is cool because they'd like feedback. So once you have the software installed, which is where we're at now, I'll show you. I already have it installed. So I'm going to open DaVinci Resolve. And this is the same version that we were just seeing here earlier. This takes, normally it doesn't take this long. I wonder if I got too many things open in the background. Maybe. Okay, so my screen resolution changed. It sure did because I am using this to allow you guys to see my screen. So I basically did the default. So I'm going to open up a new project. And what I'll do now is I'm going to go to the media tab. And in the media tab, I'm going to find the raw clips. So I have them in my Samsung T3 external SSD in a folder called C200. So I'll do that. I'm going to go ahead and we'll take a look at the first reel. And let's find a different, let's see. Yeah, let's use this clip. So I'm going to now import this clip. I'm going to add it to the media pool. I'm going to allow the clip to change so that it matches the clip that I'm actually importing. And then I'm going to go into the edit tab and I'm going to add it to a new, I'm going to add the selected clip to a new timeline. And I'm going to leave that as the default timeline 1. So now my raw file is in the timeline, okay? So if you guys missed my video yesterday where I was talking about using the Canon software to process the raw files from the C200 and how I found them to be not really, that's not an effective way of doing things, because essentially, regardless of the clip and the clip length, right, within the limitations of your media card, you would have to process the entire clip and then turn it into something like ProRes or any kind of proxy version to then allow you to edit it into whatever your nonlinear editor is, whether it be Premiere Pro or any of the other editors that are out there. What I'm suggesting is that using Resolve is faster, because if you missed the video, and I'll be sure to put a link up in a card above so you guys can check it out in case you missed it. But the tools that allow you to make those raw setting changes, you know, make it brighter, make it darker, adjust the white balance, or do a hue tint shift, you know, add plus or minus magenta or plus or minus green. That is, it's not useful in that you don't have the tools needed to make those types of decisions that would then result in a better image. So Resolve has all those tools. They have all the different scopes, and you can bring in the clips. Now, in addition to bringing in the clips, because Resolve is a full-blown editor, you can trim your clips. So all of a sudden, you are now processing less than the entire clip. And if you have a very rough cut, even if you have some huge handles on the end of each of the different takes or clips, right? You can very quickly assemble something into a timeline, and then very quickly in Resolve, once you have, let's say that this is what we needed, right? In fact, let me bring in one additional clip just so that we have something else here. So I'm going to add it into the media pool. I'm going to go into the edit tab, and now I'm going to take that second clip and I'm going to add it. So now I have my rough cut edit piece done here. I can very quickly go to the deliver page and then allow each of these clips to be rendered as individual files. I can export the audio that goes along with it. I can give it either a custom name or use the source name. In my video settings, I can export to QuickTime, or I can export to any of these other things, AVI, DPX, you know, MP4, whatever it is that you might want to export at, or you can use one of their previews, of course, and then make adjustments as to what kind of files you want to export. You don't have to export Apple ProRes 4444, which was the main option when exporting RAW using the Canon tool. Now I have so much more flexibility with what type of file I want to work with once I export from here. Now, of course, I can render at the actual source resolution so I don't lose or I don't crop into my actual clip. And once I'm ready, I need to select where it's going. So at the very top, I would browse to where I'd want it to go. So I'll select here, C200, YouTube Live Demo, and I'm going to go OK. And I would add it to the render queue. And all I'd have to do is click render, which I will, and I'm done. I'm basically am processing the raw clips from the C200 into a rough cut, if you will, right? In other words, any extra handles that I might have on a take, I don't have to then do that processing. And bringing them into a single folder where all the clips are in one folder. If you guys remember, or if you didn't see it in yesterday's live broadcast, I was showing you how the Canon raw processing software basically creates an individual folder for every single clip when it's exporting. This allows, at least on a Mac, I don't have a PC, I work on a Mac, so that's how it works there. This allows me to put each of these different clips with their original source name into a single bin or single folder on my computer that I can then bring into and edit on, say, Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro X. The other thing, of course, that you can do is I could have used the preset, and I'll show you where that is. So this is rendering those two clips, and as you can see, it's pretty fast. It's already at 97%. Now, granted, the total length of these clips is about 1 minute and 17 seconds. So that was not bad. Or 1 minute and 27 seconds. That's not bad. Pretty good render times compared to the Canon software, right? But if I would have used this Premiere XML preset, it will not only render the files and put them into a folder, but it'll also create a sequence for me that I can essentially import that sequence right into Premiere. And if you guys are interested to see how that works, or you don't want to try it yourself or whatever, be sure to let me know in the notes, and I'll certainly do a quick video on it. It's incredibly easy. But then it basically takes all of those editing decisions that you made along the way and brings them into Premiere for you to finish. Now, the huge upside in going in this direction, which happens to be the huge downside when you're using the Canon software, is what I'm about to show you here. So we're going to take that exact same timeline, right? So this is what our timeline is. And I'm going to go to the color tab. Now, these are raw clips, and we can see here it says Canon C200 raw. It's a raw clip. It's a raw clip. Because it's not a Blackmagic clip, I can't make any of the raw changes in Resolve, but that's okay. If you remember, if you saw the broadcast yesterday, you noticed that basically I allowed whatever my in-camera settings to be carried over when I processed the Canon raw clips and turned them into Apple ProRes. So not having this ability here changes absolutely nothing from what it is that I would have done normally using the Canon software. If I had a chip chart that I would have used, I certainly could use, the quick auto correct or auto balance tools in Resolve. But I can now come in here into my color wheels, and I'm going to switch over so I can see my scopes. I'm going to see my waveform. And now I see the actual waveform. And unfortunately, this is tiny. So let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay, cool. So now I have a larger waveform. And you know what? I just want to see the luma. Okay, so now I have the waveform, and this is what my raw clip shows. Well, if I want to start the editing piece, right? Or not editing. If I want to start the color correction piece to make it not so flat and give me better contrast so that I can judge the quality of what it is that I captured in camera, I can begin to do this here before I do the export. So not only am I able to bring in raw clips from the camera, right? So from the SSD, which is where I copied the CFast 2.0 card to. But I'm then also able to do a rough cut of what it is that I think I want to keep and want to process, but then also bring it into the color page in Resolve and either add something like a LUT, which, by the way, if you guys are interested in that, I'm going to have a YouTube live video tomorrow, 11:30 a.m., same time. So that's 12:30 Eastern and 9:30 Pacific. So if you guys can join me, would really love to see you here. But I can then also add color or contrast or begin working on my image, getting it to where I want it to be, or finishing it if I really want to create the look at this stage, and then finish my edit in Premiere Pro if that is what I choose to do. So I'm more comfortable using Premiere Pro than I am editing in Resolve, but I have no issues doing a rough cut in Resolve. I mean, that's super easy. And in this version of Resolve, in case it matters, and you guys don't know yet, you're able to, when you're setting up the new installation on your system, you're able to say, I'm familiar with editing in Premiere Pro, or I'm familiar with editing in Final Cut Pro X. And it will create the majority of the keyboard shortcuts that you normally use and allow you to use them in their own editing. So I think that that's pretty slick. But let's take a look here at the scopes again. So again, this is my raw file. And thanks for joining BMB Films. Nice to see you. So yeah, let's see what it is that we can do here to basically get a better sense of what our image will look like, okay? So I personally like to use the primary wheels first before I do anything else. So if I stretch out my gain, and I like to bring my gain up to about here. So just going over the 896. Now, keeping in mind that I primarily work, and I should say this just so that there's super transparency here. I primarily work on commercial or branded content. That's what I shoot. So I'm working with brands, I'm working with companies, I'm working with small businesses, and we are actively promoting whatever it is that they're doing. For my main commercial work, it has to do with healthcare and insurance. And those are both commercials that they run, on the web and also on broadcast. So now that that's out of the way. So this is why I like to keep my scopes here. I realize that I can push them all the way up to 1023 if I wanted to, but I like to keep them here because this is closer. This actually allows me to stay within legal limits of broadcast, which is the Rec 709 standard. So this is where I like my highlights. Now, my shadows, I can make the lift adjustments, and this gives me a better balanced. Whoops, I just messed that up. Here we go. This gives me a better balanced image. Now, what you may notice, let's see if I can make this bigger. It is not allowing me to make it bigger, okay? I didn't crush any of the blacks, and obviously I didn't blow out any of the highlights. But then also, my main exposure is right at that 512 mark. So this is now a balanced image that I can begin to work with. If I do this to all of the clips that are in my rough cut and then I export them, then applying something like a LUT or a lookup table or my own color settings or whatever else it is that I might want to do to that clip in Premiere Pro makes it that much faster. Now, of course, I don't have to do that, right? I can easily, and in fact, what I'll do is I'll add a node before, and I'm going to disable what I did, but I can apply a LUT here. So I can go, if I do 1D LUT, I can do Canon log to Rec 709, and it gives me that. Or I can do the new LUTs, which are available on the Canon website for download. And I mislabeled my folder here. Let's see, it's called 3D LUTs. Why don't I must not have them on here. Okay, so I don't have my Canon LUTs installed on the system yet. But I have a bunch of other LUTs. So let's say log to 709, and I'm going to use, actually I'm going to use this one, log generic, and it really doesn't matter. But essentially, I guess what I'm proposing is that I've applied a LUT, so let's say that this is my color that I'm going with. I can then make adjustments I can add more contrast. And I can even add more saturation. And in fact, the way that I like to add saturation is I like to add a new node. And in this node, I would then go here. And this allows less cross-contamination of colors. And of course, this is too much. But then I like to just dial it back to what makes more sense. So that kind of looks pretty good. And taking this approach speeds up my whole workflow, right? So that's I guess my takeaway. If you guys compare yesterday's YouTube live video using the Canon software to process your raw footage, or simply taking the raw footage, which is basically whatever the in-camera settings were, and then exporting it to whatever flavor of ProRes or any other codec that you might want to export into, that is much faster. If you choose to do a rough edit, that will then equally create a much faster workflow or post-production workflow for you. If you choose to apply exposure settings that would balance out your image, that again makes it so much faster when you're doing your final edit and adding your final color or look or whatever it is that you're doing. If you want to do the final color, the final look, and you're actually working with the raw file, there is no penalty to you, right? Whereas if you export, say, if you're in proxy workflow, as an example, and you're exporting Apple ProRes 422, how do you get back to this stage, which is where you're working with the full-blown quality version of what it is that the camera shot, to then apply any of the adjustments? Because the raw that has all of that color information is going to be much harder to break than even Apple ProRes 422 or Apple, ProRes LT or any of the other flavors. Now, if you're editing Apple ProRes 4444, honestly, I don't think that you're losing anything when compared to working with the raw, at least from what it is that I've seen at this point. So I feel like this is a much more efficient way of working, and then also a much more real world use of the raw clips that come out of the C200, because any of the exposure changes that you're making, you're actually making them based on something that makes sense. You're able to see the scopes. You're able to see what it is that your information, what it is that you're actually going to end up with. And I think that matters. See, you have all of that information, all of these different tools that basically are not available when you're using the Canon software. Now, I'm going to say this because I don't believe I have all the answers, okay? Ryan Connolly from Film Riot, and in case you guys, well, there's no way, if you guys are watching my channel, there's absolutely no way that you guys have not either seen or know who Film Riot is. They're an awesome group of people, and Ryan is knowledgeable. He shares a ton of information, and he works on a lot of different types of projects, including narrative, not just, my little tiny space in what it is that I do. And Ryan has a C200 review, which I'll be sure to link. And he also did a video yesterday for Film Riot Mondays, where he talked about processing his raw clips. And he works off of a Windows operating system, not a Mac operating system. In his video, he very clearly said that while other people are doing Resolve, I'm one of the other people that is choosing to go the Resolve route versus the Canon route for my own reasons. For him, it was easier and more efficient, or he just simply chose to go with using the Canon software. So I think you should take what it is that I say with a grain of salt, and you should check out what Ryan has to say, and then maybe figure out which one works best for you. You know, at this point, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody who participated. Again, I'm going to make sure that I link to everything that I talked about, you know, all the videos that I referenced in this here below. If you're not already subscribed, I'd like to invite you to subscribe. If you're just visiting my channel, thanks for stopping by. If you found any of this information useful, don't forget to let me know. And if you didn't, you know, I think you know what to do. So again, thank you very much. I will catch you guys tomorrow on YouTube Live at 11:30 a.m. Central Time, where I'm going to go through this same workflow, except applying the Canon provided LUTs, just so that you could see how powerful and how much quicker that would be than going any other route. So until next time, I'm Carlos Quintero from mediaonq, helping you compete in today's web economy. Thanks for watching. Take care.